they are.
Yeah, we did Patty. And then the retired police officer bought a lot up past that big square White House.
Yeah.
We put a horn in for him.
All in, next 5 years, that's all gonna be residential in 3 days. And then off over.
We want to hear what you have to say.
That's a question I'm gonna ask you.
Can you tell who we have on line?
Do you want to know names? Would you know them?
Yes, please.
You can come. There's a K Newman.
All right, 10
Reds,
a.m., Wednesday, September
Joshua
30th,
Bryant,
2020. We will call
Melinda
the
Dunn,
call meeting for the
Brian
Commissioners Court,
Sly.
Montague County into session. And the item on this agenda is discuss and consider the FEMA grant extensions with Colleen O'Neill and take any necessary action. Ms. O'Neill.
All right. Well, Judge, Commissioners, thank you very much for taking the time to meet with us again. The purpose of this meeting is to find a path to move forward. And our FEMA partners are here for guidance and support. On the line, before I get into the rest of this, I'll introduce myself first. I believe most of you know me. My name is Colleen O'Neill, Chief of the Texas Division of Emergency Management over Region 4 and 5. Next to me, I believe all of you know Lance Liggett. He's your district coordinator for Region 5. Jody Terrazas is my recovery specialist for Region 4 and 5. She's on the WebEx. Also on the WebEx is Joshua Bryant. He's our section chief out of the Austin office. We may have Kyle Wong, who is the unit chief out of the Austin district as well. Our TDM partners with Colm Resnick, Joey Gallo, and Kelsey Newman. And our FEMA partners, Melinda Dunn and Brian Sly. If there's anyone else that has joined the call, I apologize. I'm not aware of who else might be on. So as I was saying, we want to move forward and our FEMA partners are here for guidance and support. With that being said, we will not be making a determination on the time extensions today, but rather this meeting is to gather information to help us as a team to make that determination to help you move forward. We would like to discuss with what your understanding is of what has been completed. For instance, we would like to bring your attention to your schedule of maintenance, whether this is a weekly, monthly, or quarterly. In doing so, you may have completed work to make the roads possible or passable, I apologize, thereby completing a portion of the work. So we want to bring that to your attention. We would also like to discuss our concerns related to the projects. We hold the utmost respect for your situation regarding the size of the damage, personnel issues, and continued floods over the course of the last 5 years. However, we are bound by the federal guidelines by which every jurisdiction must comply. Most importantly, we would like to know what your concerns are and how we can resolve the current issues and help you move forward. And with that, Judge, I'll pass it back to you.
I think what we're gonna do today is, have you met Charles Lanier?
I just did, thank you. We've spoken several times on the phone.
Very good. Well, Mr. Lanier came on board the 1st of June and to head up this FEMA funding project. And I think that Mr. Lanier probably has the best grasp on this. And so I'm going to let him address you in the court as far as where we stand.
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you, Judge, and thank you, both Colleen and Lance. I'm sorry.
I'm just here to look pretty, I guess. Don't worry.
Academic version.
When I took over this position, or was appointed to fill this position, it appeared to me that we were a little bit behind in what we should have been doing and needed to do. And I've tried to catch us up. I've worked on the commissioners, getting their timelines together. We've turned in quite a bit of work that they've done as far back as 2015. The 2 reports that I handed you out just a few minutes ago should show that we've completed work on multiple projects. We still have a few to complete. There are a few that do show no progress having been done, but the topic that you just brought up, I'm sure we can go back and look at that, and we can show that there has been work actually done on those roads, because they are drivable, they are passable. So at some point they've been graded or had rock dumped on them, or some other type of maintenance, I'm sure, to keep those roads passable.
Yes, sir, and that's the type of information that we're looking for. Again, if you pulled the ditches, added rock, spread caliche as part of the maintenance to just make those roads passable, then you have completed part of the project without maybe realizing that you were working on part of that project. So we need to incorporate those costs, incorporate that time as part of this quarterly report and moving forward in time and part of your expenditures.
And
I think we can go back and get those numbers. I'll have to talk with the commissioner, but I'm sure that has been done, and that's something that I can work on.
We had that very discussion actually this morning.
Yeah. It was not done in the past. I can't speak to that, but I can speak to going forward,
Right.
what I can work on and what I can do, hopefully do.
Okay. Melinda or Brian, if you'd like to chime in on your concerns.
Bear with me, I'm sorry, the technology. First off, good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Commissioners. Good to see some of y'all again. I know that we met early on.
Brian, can you hold on one moment so we can get you up on the screen, sir? I apologize.
There were gonna be other people. So let me pick it up, it's easy. I think everybody can hear me better.
Thank you. Okay, Brian, I believe we're ready.
Ma'am?
Oh, hold on. Give me just a minute.
One second.
Try. Got audio there. Can you say something, Brian, so I can check the audio?
Yes, good morning. How y'all?
I'd be doing better if I could hear you across the TV. Let's.
I'll start counting to 10 backwards.
There we
How's
go.
that? Can you hear me now?
Yes, sir.
Okay, y'all got me? All right.
All right, go ahead and try talking. We'll see if everybody can hear you.
All right, how's that? Does that work?
Okay.
Yes, sir.
All righty. Well, thank you very much. Again, good morning. Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, Commissioners. Those that I have met in the past year, good to see you all. Good to see you all doing well. And folks that I'm just meeting today, pleased to meet you as that is. And we've come a long way since I had a party line as a kid, obviously, but I'm glad we have this technology. What was the last statement that I heard was, and I'm sorry, I didn't catch the gentleman's last name, but was it Mr. Charles over there? Made a comment that I think is particularly significant in looking at completion of these projects, that the work's been done. At some point, just through normal maintenance since 2005, however you all run it, if you run it quarterly, however it's done, there's been activity that directly correlates, impacts the scope of work written within the projects. So if y'all went out and dropped material, y'all went out and graded, y'all went out and pulled your ditches, you've accomplished the scope of work within those projects. So I know there's been some turnover in the county and some changes and such, and that's understandable. And we definitely want to work with that. Don't want to put anybody in a position where it's, because of something that you weren't aware of in the past and any needs that we could do to support that moving forward. But it appears that y'all would have done a good deal of the work already. And you may not know that it is associated with that. So that being said, sometimes, I even look at our program, we have a FEMA grant project over here and it says X. Well, how's that relate to the work we've done? And what you could do is just go through and look at the projects, look at the damaged areas that are written in the projects. They're all, I believe, delineated by GPS coordinates. And somewhere inclusive of that, and I don't know how work's done in the precinct, and I won't speak for it, but if you send somebody out to go do some work to say this area, that area, is that included in the project? And is there invoicing to show that, they went ahead and dropped some material, did the work, labor, equipment, et cetera, and that would cover the project scope of work. That would satisfy what would be being looked for by the state in their compliance considerations. So if there's anything we can do to support that and help you all through it, let us know.
So in other words, the projects that are on the table right now, had you done, and we know that there's been, ongoing maintenance because the roads are passable. So if you can match up the project with the GPS coordinates to the work that has already been done, show that and document that, then most of these projects are done and they're completed and we can take them off.
Pardon me. Hi, Brian. Charlie Lanier. It's nice to meet you, sir.
Yes, sir, likewise.
I don't know that the projects will be completely done by the time we do that, but we can certainly go back and look at what has been done and get percentage completion on those projects.
I understand about, and I'd like to defer with Melinda Dunn or have her interject on this also. I think that, to me, that's showing progress in the direction that is beneficial. Melinda, comment?
Yeah, I'm trying to put my video thing up so I don't look just like a blob. Okay, good morning to everybody. And thank you for the, allowing us and inviting us to this meeting. In order to establish work completed and work not completed, FEMA uses various, mechanisms to do that. One of the things we use is Google Earth. And Google Earth tells us a lot of things depending on when those satellites, those are date stamped. So we can look to see if roads have rock on them, wherever we're looking, not just in your county, but anywhere. We can use those to see if the roads have been graded, are there still problems, are bridges out, whatever the case may be. We use that on a very routine basis. The justification for continued, that there is still work remaining on some of these projects, on some of these roads, will almost have to be justified by photos. And I say that because this event happened 5 years ago. In a 5-year span of time, there has been road graders going over those and people traveling and other rain events and whatever happens to gravel roads. I understand the makeup of gravel roads. I've lived on many gravel roads, so I understand what your challenges are with keeping them clear, keeping them rut-free, what happens after rain events, and how those are repaired. In order to justify that projects are not complete, this is almost, once again, going to have to be a photoed justification due to the length of time since the disaster declaration. Any questions, concerns? I want this to be just as totally upfront, honest, and how I am going to get to the approval of these time extensions and the justification why work is not completed on these projects as quickly as we can, as efficiently as we can, and with the right amount of justification that I can take it to my leadership to get these approvals. It's not Melinda's approval, it's Melinda's recommendation to her leadership to sit thumbs up, thumbs down. Is there enough justification of why after 5 years these projects are not complete? And, you know, and if they're not complete, once again, what do they look like right now compared to the photos attached to the projects? You know, you're going to have to provide us something to where I can put together an analysis for my leadership to actually make this request.
I think we can make that happen.
That's a reasonable request and recommendation, I think, yes.
So given the information provided to you by Brian and Melinda and what we had discussed earlier, ballpark figure, what do you think are the percentage of projects that are still ongoing, that are not complete, versus the one, given what we've discussed here, are complete?
Isn't it mostly large projects, Charlie, that's in on precinct 1, or not, yes, 1 and 3 is, I think 2 and 4 are completely finished with every project.
Yes.
And I'm just speaking for Mark here, asking me to visit a little bit. One of the big problems is we're trying to do this with our own budget, not borrow money. That's how this has got to work.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come in, I know the roads may show maintenance on them from the satellite or whatever, mostly, you know, routine maintenance. We're not able to go in without receiving money from FEMA. We finish one project, wait, get the money for it, and then start another project.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have the type of budgets that we can go in and spend $1 million ourselves. We're using FEMA money to fund this thing throughout.
Mm-hmm.
That's what their big concern is, and I'm not, Roy can ask his own. The concern is, and I know Mark has got about $300,000 turned in, and I think he's got all the documents that FEMA need to get the money back, but he's been waiting a couple of months or longer to get this back in order to start another large project. If that makes sense to you, but we can't go spend the money unless we've got it in our pocket here, because the bills come in daily, and, you know, FEMA's getting it a lot faster than they used to at the start of it. It just takes time to get this done. I know their projected finish dates on this look like they're 2 years down the line. I'd kind of like to know what y'all think. How long are you going to hold on and let us keep working like that? If not, we may need to change and do some different avenues towards these projects, work on certain ones more than others to try to get the biggest bang for our buck, if that makes sense.
Yes, sir. And Commissioner, with all due respect, in previous meetings that we've been here, on several occasions, we've discussed how to get money forward that you can get in advance on the
Yes,
project. We've discussed that. We've also discussed contracting, because these projects are written on estimates, not actuals. So if you were to contract, then that would be, the invoice would be reimbursed on the actuals.
Yes,
So we've had these discussions several times in the past, and when we've left, everyone was under this, on the understanding that we know what the path forward is. We can do that. We can get advances, we can get contractors. I know there was a little angst against getting contractors, but I know that there was at least the understanding that you can get in advance on these projects. So, but that brings us back to where we are today, because there was that understanding when we left, but we're still here. We're still here with these projects that are not completed, and we gave you the information and the tools to move forward. But we're here today.
well, with that being said, and I know with Commissioner Murphy, and I think Roy has too, they've hired a lot of contractors to help them haul.
Mhm.
But on one of the projects, on one of the avenues that you're speaking of, is this, what the Grant Unell that was here called it 75-75. You got 75% of the 75 up front to start these projects. Mark pursued this avenue and was told we didn't qualify for this and couldn't do it. And that was one of the options he was going after there. But with his conversations with Grant, we didn't qualify for that type of, well, however that works. I'm not really familiar. I didn't talk to Grant myself, but we couldn't do that for some reason. If that was a possibility and that could happen, I think these projects would move real fast because the money would be there to do them then. But like I say, that was told that we couldn't do that. And Grant sat right in here and told us to go after that 75-75. And when Mark pursued it, the door was closed in his face.
We were also told that these large projects, some that were close to small projects, that we could break them out and put them into small projects. We pursued that too, and was told we couldn't do that either. We was told that in here too. So
Yeah,
tried to
we
do that
were
too.
gonna look into ability, and,
Another thing, on my precinct, I don't know what anybody else has got, we had a search program for this that y'all deducted from FEMA deal. A lot of this patchwork and stuff to keep this stuff rolling was done by that search grant to go out there and patch all that stuff before FEMA started. So, I mean, there's things that picture damage that were taken. It was done on that other program, which y'all deducted out of all my stuff. I got like over $1 million worth of deductions out of that. And on that part of it. So, and then part of the money on my precinct, I put a plan together, me and my foreman put a plan together 3 years ago, how we were gonna do this and build our money up. Because I had to buy equipment, I've added trucks, everything I can possibly do. And our precinct is fine on funds. I've got like $500,000 out there right now that I haven't got back. And with my new budget starting, I can run 300,000, and while that's out, another 300,000 or 400,000 to work with. I can keep going. And I've had to plan it this way because I didn't want to run into a stump of running out and waiting. You know?
right.
So we'll continue to working all the time, which is what we've done.
So back to your initial question of what percentage of the roads that show no work being done. Rusty might have a better estimate than I do, but 10, 15, 20, 25%.
Okay,
I really, without talking to the commissioner or going to the road, I really can't give you a solid answer, but that's something that we could get in the next day or two.
okay.
And just for clarification, Mark Murphy, Commissioner of Precinct 3, isn't with us because he has just completed a major surgery.
Right.
And so that's the reason that Commissioner Blank is speaking.
Understood. Thank you. I hope.
Colleen, may I chime in if you don't mind? This is, good morning, everyone, Judge, Commissioners. This is Joey Gallo, I'm Regional Manager at Cone Resnick. I have been on and off with Montague now for 3 years. Unfortunately, who is the commissioner in the blue right there that was just talking, by the way? That's you. Unfortunately, what he's describing with Grant was the small window of time when I was not assigned to the region. That said, I'm intimately familiar with what took place during that time. And you were completely correct regarding the advance. The issue was, by that point, the timeline had already elapsed, and we can't advance funds on projects that have passed the period of performance date. Because my first instinct was, I've not heard a reason why anyone would not qualify for an advance. I mean, that would be new to me even. But the issue was, and to quote Grant's exact wording was, we are unable to process advance of fund requests since TDEM cannot reimburse expenses incurred outside of an approved period of performance. So unfortunately, the issue you're facing is all of these issues are exacerbating upon themselves, if you will. I mean, all of which go back to the original issue that the work is now past the deadline. So what we could do is we can advance you on expenses that you've already incurred, but anything past that POP date, that period of performance date, we can't advance, we can't reimburse, we can't do anything with. So the only path forward at this point, in my opinion at least, is you're going to have to do what Charles said, and you're going to have to go back and look at that stuff from before, because we're at kind of an impasse here where we cannot continue to reimburse. We can't do any advances for anything past that date, if that makes sense.
Are you talking about reimbursements that have been already sent to y'all? You know, like, again, I'm just Commissioner Murphy, he's got about 350,000 turned into y'all 2 or 3 months ago. Everything, y'all have all the documents showing the work is complete, and he's waiting on that to be returned.
Yes, so I can address at least two of those are for work that was completed past the period of performance. There's nothing we can do with those until this gets resolved. The other 4 you're referring to, and there's about, from what I'm looking at, about probably, well, about the number you said. What did you say, about 350,000? Yes. All of those are in the final steps of their review as I'm looking at them right now. So we really are talking about days for those. I mean, again, I don't know the specifics of those requests for reimbursement. Assuming those expenses are prior to the period of performance end date, we're talking probably days, if not just a few short weeks at worst, before that money is coming out. So there is good news on that front, at least.
You said the date for the performance ending. What is that date?
It is, I'm going to give you the exact one because I could ballpark it, November 29th, 2019.
Okay, that was the end of our last official, I guess what I would call it, extension.
That's correct.
W.R. Tucker was here before Charlie Lanier was. He had applied for the extension. I know COVID and everything kind of got right in the middle of it there, but
Sorry.
we were assured to keep on working, and that would be taken care of up until March the 29th, I think, was the next extension cutoff.
And I can chime in on this one. This is Kelsey with Cone Resnick as well. So the time extension that we had discussed past the November 29th, 2019 date, it wasn't actually ever submitted, unfortunately, by WR. I think COVID came up, and I think there was some changes in personnel and other issues that kind of prevented that from coming in. So in that time, Charlie and I really worked together to try to get some of these going. Getting the spreadsheet that FEMA had requested filled out, and to the best of the knowledge, any project that has been completed, getting a closeout for that, and kind of really trying to make them all come together the best we can. And so that's really what we are right now. We're requesting a time extension past that November 29th, 2019 date, but we never actually got to that point in which it was approved. So a lot of these RFRs are kind of stuck, and they're stuck in that section where the work or some work, additional work, or the work entirely had been completed after November 29th, 2019. And this all ends up tying right back to what Melinda was saying, kind of about, you know, being able to provide information and proof that this work wasn't done and why. And I think that's really what we're trying to figure out is, you know, we want to understand from Montague County how you're moving things forward, and then what kind of happened in that meantime. Because I think the thing that it does kind of seem like is there are other opportunities, I'm sure, that we could reimburse you for this project work within that November 29th date, or like before it. So, you know, trying to figure out what that was, but unfortunately, and I know Charlie emailed me and let me know, I'm sure it's one of y'all commissioners up there, that you have concerns about an RFR not being advanced, or a request for reimbursement being advanced the complete way through. And that really is the reason why, is a lot, at least on one of them, and I don't remember which one on top of my head, the work was completed from January to around July or June of 2020. And that's where we can't go past, because it still ends in November 2019 at the moment.
Well, let me say this. I know that regardless of WR or Charlie, the work has been submitted to y'all, you know, as far as the work we've done on the roads past the November deadline. But I really believe that it will be proof on Charlie's computer in there that shows where WR did submit an extension to y'all, and emails returned to him from y'all to verify that he did apply for the extension, but did not receive the extension. I think that the proper paperwork was turned in to receive the extension. It just never was granted or approved from y'all. And
well, that's the kind of the issue that we had, was it was submitted in GMS, but the documentation support and the information provided did not meet the requirements. And so it was sent back for revision. So I think it just said on them, you know, we needed a time extension and road work was continuing. And when we're talking about, you know, I know that we had a big meeting probably about, Joey, it was of March 2019, about time extensions and the scrutiny that they go under when you're asking for FEMA approval, and, you know, or additional scrutiny that comes in when you're asking for FEMA approval. And this is that moment. And so you know, they were sent back for revision. And I think at one point they did make it all the way to FEMA, and they said the same thing, like, this isn't enough, we need to send it back. At this point, the best way that I can describe it is, you know, this is an attempt on our end as well. Everyone is working towards the same goal. And at the end of the day, in 10 years from now, if the OIG comes back and audits these projects, you know, I use this cliche all the time, I think Joey knows it, but it's the applicant's responsibility to put color into the story. OIGs and auditors, they only see black and white. And so the more information you can provide as to what's going on and why, that's what's going to really make sure that you as the county is protected against an audit that will come back negatively. And, you know, if there were extenuating circumstances, making sure those are very well documented. So it kind of comes back where the document, it was submitted, and I can see that. I think all of us can see that the request by WR was submitted. But after that point, it was returned for those revisions and for additional work. And this meeting today is a result of a lot of work that I know Charlie put in, extensive work Charlie put in to try to put this spreadsheet as complete as possible to paint the story, and to provide a little bit more color into what happened and why. And that's where we are right now. So that's kind of where the root of this meeting is coming from, is that these were since submitted, and there's additional questions and concerns that we would like to address with y'all, and try to figure out what the best path forward is.
well, we'd like to do the same. You know, we need to move with an extension, you know, whatever. I know that we've been reimbursed for some projects after November deadline when we were working on them we pretty well being reimbursed up until the last few months. But that's our goal here too. We would like to do whatever we need to do to keep this moving forward, you know, as long as we can to try to get through these projects. So whatever we need to give y'all, you know, for this, we can do it. There's no problem with that. We'll work through this, whatever it takes. But we need to keep moving forward with these projects.
Yeah, absolutely. And it really is our goal at the end of the day to get y'all reimbursed for everything that you incurred. We don't want to withhold any funding. You know, we know that the damage was done. We know that these roads were severely damaged. I mean, just in this disaster alone, Montague County had 136 projects, and that's probably one of the largest project counts I've seen in quite a while. You know, that kind of compares to the amount of projects that some very large counties have with buildings and things like that. So, you know, we want to make sure that you're reimbursed the full amount. We just have to make sure that we're adhering to the grant terms and conditions, and everything is set, protect. And at the end of the day, again, we're all doing this for Montague County and trying to get y'all reimbursed, but also make sure that your funding and your money that you do receive is protected and that you're able to keep that in your pocket. When we put money into the state of Texas, regardless of whether it's just whatever county it is, we want it to stay there. And that's really what we're trying to make sure happens here.
I do want to directly answer the question too, though. There's really two black and white paths forward. And the first, most simple, ideal one is you locate those expenses that took place prior to the deadline in November of 19. That's the easiest, clearest solution for you. The other one is for things that are legitimately either went on past November 19 or continue to go on. We're going to need to give a little bit more to FEMA in terms of why are we just now 5-6 years down the line getting to work on these roads for the very first time. And we're going to do that with photographs, with affidavits, with pure evidence that says, look, this road legitimately was not worked on for 5 years. Here's the reason why, here's the proof, and here's our path forward on it. That to me is my only two paths forward on the most of these. Colleen, you chime in if you think so, or anybody else really.
No, it's things that we've discussed previously, and an absolute. Like we discussed earlier on a lot of the items that you've already completed, pulling ditches, grading, that's part of working on the project. So if we can go back and go through those projects, pull out the expenses that were incurred as a direct result of doing things like pulling ditches, then that's part of your project, so that we can, you know, we can move forward on those. But anything past that November 2019 deadline, in order to get the extension granted, then as Joey said, we're going to have to dig deep, and as Kelsey said, you know, show the color. So we're going to have to, you know, do with pictures, as Joey indicated, you know, even affidavits to FEMA. Anything that we can do to show, again, why after 5 years, this is the first time that this road is being worked on or requested reimbursement for this.
So you're basically talking about the projects after November deadline that are not complete then?
Well, those, but all, yeah, the ones, there's some before that aren't complete.
Well, what I'm getting at is I know that I had projects that weren't completed yet on November the 19th. I've already submitted those. I've been reimbursed for every project that I've got.
Mm-hmm.
And but again, some of those, I don't know exactly the number, $200,000 or $300,000 that I finished after November the 19th have been submitted, everything approved, payment made on.
But they were started before November 19th.
No, my particular projects, I started them and finished one. Started and finished it. All I had was small projects on top of that too. Maybe we're not talking about the same thing. You know, I know the large projects are basically what's unfinished. small projects are pretty well all done. I mean, you may have just a few, you're completely done with these small.
Yeah, and
So-
It's got one small project still to go.
Okay,
yeah, and the small projects are written on estimates.
yeah, I still
They're
think
not
we
an
can
actual.
we can get the documentation that y'all need for these extensions, you know, keep moving forward with this.
Right.
So what you tell us is, really the ones that hadn't even started, more than ones that work's been done on. Or like mine, since 2015, 16, I've turned in stuff that were done all along. I've always kept the paperwork up. But I didn't submit it because we started out with a $5,000 submission and then went to a $30,000 deal. And then, so I kept hanging on to it. Well, I hung on. And I've turned in, I don't know, $500,000 worth of it. It's been done on large projects. So I've kept, you know, what I've done on these projects, I've turned in.
Right.
And some, I mean, like one may have some work done on 2016, 2017, and 2019. You know, so all of mine is caught up.
We're trying to get caught up, yes. And you've done a good job turning in way back 2 years ago.
Yeah, I've got all that turned in, so what do I need to do?
So what I'm hearing, hi Kelsey, nice to meet you too, by the way. Thanks for all your help. You've been a great mentor.
Nice to meet you too, Charlie. It's good to hear from you.
What I'm hearing is we need to provide some pictures of roads to show the damage, that we need to get expenses prior to November of 19 and get all of those together and submitted. We need proof of any road work that's been done, possibly including affidavits to FEMA as to what's been done, what needs to be done, and these things in order to move forward with the time extension. Is that, am I understanding correctly?
Kelsey, he was addressing.
Yeah, I was trying to unmute it and I was having a little difficulty. Yeah, we just need a little bit more support for, especially on those roads that have not been completed. You know, if there has been any, and I think you and I could work back and look on them, but I think what we've been looking at on some of these is, you know, referencing back again to what Melinda said, there are some roads that were on that list that we have those original pictures for. And there are on Google Earth about 2 years later, we see that the road has new dirt on it. It has new caliche, and it's been utilized, and especially off of those roads with large ranges or homes or whatever it may be. And so if we can find that cost documentation for then we know that you did complete the work because it's been utilized. It's been, people have been using it, they've been driving on it, and I'm sure that the commissioners haven't received too many angry calls or anything like that. So those are kind of high priority roads, and see if we can try to find that cost documentation to reimburse it. Because like we said, you know, some of these roads, I'm sure that at least some of the work has been completed, and maybe it just hasn't been realized that that is the project work. Like has since been completed, and so you're looking back and it's a little overwhelming to look at all of these projects that you have and the roads associated and tying it back. So on those ones, yes, and then on the ones that have not been worked on, that's where we'll really need those affidavits and pictures and things like that, and a really good understanding as to why they haven't been worked on within the last 5 years.
Okay.
I think that's doable for us there.
Okay.
It doesn't sound like an overnight project, but it is doable.
Definitely not done in one day, but we'll figure it out. And y'all are more than welcome to, you know, contact anyone at TDM, and myself and Joey, we're here to help y'all the best we can. We want the same thing for the county, 100%.
Hey, Kelsey, this is Melinda. I just want to add one more thing on this justification, that there needs to be a very detailed construction timeline for any work that is remaining. And it should fall within the next 3 to 6 months. The longer we go and we're dealing with, you know, gravel, caliche roads, the harder it is to justify, because those are the types of roads that do require the most routine maintenance because of the, you know, whatever's going on in the different seasons, whether it be rain, whether it be wind, whether it be whatever it is. I don't know if y'all get snow, but I'm assuming y'all get some snow out there every once in a while. But whatever it is, gravel roads have a lifespan. And as soon as you put gravel down, they are already in the formation to start deteriorating. So for you to say to FEMA, for you to request to FEMA, hey, we have not started this project. This PW has not been started. You're going to have to show me justification through TDM, either photographically, that when you take a photo of that road today, if you went out there today and took a picture of it, it should look just like the photos that are attached to the PW. And then how are you going to complete working on these within the next 3 to 6 months?
And Melinda, can I just clarify one thing? So right now the period of performance is that November 29th, 2019 date. Are you saying 3 to 6 months from that date, or 3 to 6 months as of right now?
I need to see what their construction timeline is going to look like.
Okay.
So we will not grant anything more than a 6-month extension. So maybe all work has been done since November. So that would put them into the end of May. You know, if it's the end of November, it would put them into the end of May of this year. I don't know if all work has been completed, or if there's still work remaining, or if there are still projects remaining to be done. But each month that goes by, it's a harder justification as to why nothing's been done on these roads.
Can I ask a question here?
Absolutely.
Okay, you're talking about ones that haven't even been started. What about the ones that have had work done on and been started? We need to do the same thing with all of these.
So we're still going to need a detailed construction timeline, and if they're not complete, why are they not complete? What are the extenuating circumstances that they were not complete in the last 5 years? And what is your plan and timeline for completion?
Yeah, well, trying to put a timeline on completion. I mean, we've worked steadily from day to day. It's only day we haven't worked on FEMA stuff is when it's raining. And we get out here and work on these roads and say you want a timeline of how it's going to take to complete it. There's a lot of extenuating circumstances. The road's going to be interjected in this. I mean, like if it comes to flood up here and we get another 6-inch rain like we just got here a while back, and it takes out a bunch of stuff we've got to go back that we've already completed for FEMA, and we've got to go back and repair all that stuff. Does that have anything to do? Do we get credit for, hey, they couldn't work on this over here because they're over there fixing land?
That could be part of your justification, yes. But even if it rains on work that you've already completed, I mean, you're at a completion point. You can't start back from zero again. I mean, it's always at a completion point.
So a road gets worked on and gets completed, and then if Commissioner Darden has to go back and repair something that he's already done, that falls under regular maintenance that's being done on 190 miles of county roads. But that also could delay some of the other projects, I think is what he's asking.
If he's already completed with the project, then it's completed. It's finished as far as your grant is concerned. That documentation should be turned in for reimbursement to TDM, whatever their mechanism is. But if you're having pulled off to do something different, there's a justification as well. If some other event came through, you couldn't work on your roads for whatever reason, then you need to provide that justification. Once again, we're to the time frame of 5 years, and it's got to have to be a pretty detailed justification for these roads. We're looking, like I say, for photos for that, you know, what's gone on in your area out there that has prevented you from working on the roads. Could you not get material? I don't know. I don't know what your material situation is, but I can tell you that there's some things that are not a consideration, and that is, you know, we're a reimbursement program. So if you're waiting on money or whatever, that's got to be a mechanism that you work with through TDEM, because the money's already been obligated on the federal side of the house. It's sitting there. And how you draw that down is however you draw that down. That's between you and the state. I'm just trying to get us to the point where we can get time extensions in place to cover the work that you have done, and with a justified reason that I can actually present this to my leadership to, you know, to get approval.
Linda, if I may I interject?
Mm-hmm.
So just for a statement regarding, you know, if regular maintenance was performed, I think, you know, let's take a look at it from the time of the event when there were damages, and the damages were viewed and you know, prepared and written into a project. So then if maintenance, regular, and I'm just saying regular maintenance, going out to make that road passable, any application of materials, any grading, any pull, would have been part of the scope of work. And to associate the two is some of that work's already been done. So that work's been done. This is an opportunity to show we already did X, and that work that's been done, and I can't presume, so forgive me for going in this direction, but the work that's been done for regular maintenance came out of the county budget. And that work's associated with the scope of work in these projects, then you're going to get that funding back, because that funding is associated with the project for doing that work that's already been done as a part of regular maintenance. So it's already a step ahead if you have that consideration in place, because what if y'all would have went out and ran the roads, and you'd be able to pull back on funding and, you know, present that to the state for the work that's been completed out there and recover that county funding. That's all. Thank you.
We got any roads that haven't been worked on?
I mean,
There's no roads in the county that haven't had something done to them, so we'll just have to go back and get that information and get it to you.
Yeah, I think it's important to remember on these ones too, that these projects are written specifically to repair roads damaged by the Memorial 2015 floods. So I think that's the thing that is kind of maybe sometimes hard to remember. You know, we're talking about regular maintenance, but sometimes that also chips into these actual physical repairs. And that's why I think these are being looked at pretty heavily, because you're not, it's not just regular maintenance that FEMA is reimbursing. These are repairs to a road as a result of a federally declared disaster. In 5 years, you know, time frame or a difference in time, I think that's really what they're kind of looking at, was were these actually not repaired, or were they repaired and, maybe worked on every now and then over these course of 5 years that resulted in the full repair of this road. It's not necessarily regular maintenance, but regular maintenance does obviously chip into those repairs overall. But I think just remembering kind of in the back of your head, it is for a very specific event, repairs for that event specifically.
This is Jody. Can I interject? My question would be, I know that there were several small projects that were paid up front, and I know that the judge mentioned that in a separate account, and that was being held. But I also know that my question would be is, do y'all keep regular maintenance records, or do you have any kind of purchases for materials or anything that you can show from that time period that would alleviate some of the questions about whether that work was done or not done? Do y'all keep regular maintenance records for the roads that you do on a regular basis? And could you produce those or have those as part of your supporting documents that some of this work was already complete? Because it is hard to go back after 5 years from 2015 without, I mean, I know that there's got to be, y'all got to have some sort of documentation that something was done in those areas for these projects. So that would be my question. Do y'all keep regular maintenance records? And do you have invoices and things to show materials purchased, any other thing that you may have had to pay for in that time frame for these particular projects?
And the answer, excuse me, Jody, this is Charlie Lanier.
Hi, Charlie.
We've exchanged emails also.
Yes, sir.
And the answer to your question is yes, we do have that. It's just that I think the commissioners in the past have thought maintenance is maintenance. It's not part of the scope of this project because I'm just doing maintenance to make the road drivable. I'm not repairing it to spec. So we do have that information. It'll just be a matter of us going back and gathering it up.
Yeah, Charlie, that was really the point that I was trying to make earlier too. So we'll figure it out. And we're more than happy to help and look at things and try to provide as much guidance as possible.
Thank you.
I'd like to ask a question. I'm still kind of confused on the dates for myself here. I know that we're talking about an extension here from November of 19 to whatever date the normally, I don't know how long the extension, they've been 6 months in the past, but I think we have produced quite a bit of proof that some roads have been worked on. If you're talking about an extension, what kind of an extension are you talking about? To catch us up to this point, or move
Yes, sir.
for 6 more months, or what? If you're granting an extension to catch us up to this point right here, then we're kind of starting all over and we don't know how far we can go. We kind of need some idea if you're planning on maybe 6 more months, and that's pretty well it kind of give us an idea of what to do, which direction to turn to get the best we can before it's over.
Yeah, so the way that the PA grant kind of operates, I'm just going to kind of cover it from the top, is you're originally just given 18 months from the declaration date. And so that original period performance date ended on November 29th, 2016. And the state of Texas has the authority to grant time extensions for an additional 30 months. And that date ended on November 29th, 2019. So after that, the state does only grant 6-month extensions at a time. The reason that's just a state policy. They want to make sure that it's kind of explained, I guess, in 6-month intervals, and that we are not asking for a significant amount of time for something that doesn't necessarily need it. So that's kind of a state rule. That's where you get the 6-month done. But after that May 29th, 2019 date, that's where it becomes FEMA approval. Now, Brian, you can chip in on that. I don't think that they're bound, and they're not bound to a 6-month extension date. They can extend it, but that's where it becomes a little bit harder. And I know that this was discussed in a meeting in like March 2019, where it gets a lot harder to ask for the extension, because you're going to have to prove then why is it still being worked on? What has prevented the work from being completed within that, first 48 months that was allowed, the initial POP date, and then all the extensions that the state would allow. So I think that's we're not starting over, but I think it becomes a little bit more stringent on, why is the work still going, and what's preventing the work from being completed? And is there, extreme extenuating circumstances? Has there been other events that come through? Whatever that may be. And part of the grant's terms is, again, I don't know why I keep referencing this, analogy, but, the Montague County needs to put the color into why these are the way that they are. We don't know. I'm not a commissioner. I drive county roads all the time, but I don't know what goes really into building them and maintaining them and stuff. And so that's when we kind of come back to the county and, look at y'all and say, help us help you by explaining what is preventing these from being done to where you need the extension through the date that you're requesting. And that gets transferred to FEMA for them to review. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Well, let me just get one more thing out there, just because I don't know how many were here of us when this disaster first happened in 2015. But our budgets just really are money for routine maintenance. When we were granted the disaster declaration, from that time until the time that we actually received federal money to help with these roads was about 16 to 18 months into this 48 months that you're talking about there. So we really couldn't do hardly anything to repair the disaster we had until we started receiving federal money to help with that. So
Yeah, I think it starts off with the small projects. I think y'all were paid at obligation for these small projects. So I mean, it's a lot smaller, but I'm actually not positive what the threshold back was in 2015. I was here in 2015. So, you know, the amount was the 75% federal share was distributed upon that obligation. And those projects were written pretty quickly. You know, at that point, you kind of do as you will on those to try to get those done. Those are capped. The real wins where I think where y'all's problem are the large projects where a federal, like a compliance review is required. And those are the ones where, again, we're talking about possibly, you know, Montague County is completing regular maintenance, which also may be project work itself. And linking those all back together so that we can reimburse you for those large projects. But for the small projects, they were obligated and the Montague County was paid relatively quickly. The turnaround on those projects back in the day were pretty quick. So I think it's a little bit of a buffer room. I understand where you're coming from on these large projects where we're talking about 400,000, maybe a couple million on those where our compliance reviews are required. But you know, on those two, you can submit for reimbursement as the project work was completed. We see that Montague County did do that to some extent, but now we need to really go back and hammer in on the work that was done that you may not have, may not have been determined at the time by the road hands or whoever was the commissioner at the time that this was actual project repair work and reimbursable back to Montague County, to kind of balance out the best they can for your budget. You know, we're all aware that every county in Texas is limited by a budget. The commissioners are limited by a budget, and you really need to keep within that constraints. The PA grant is designed to help offset that cost burden for these events to move things a little forward. So just the reimbursement process a little longer.
one thing for sure, we're very appreciative for what we've got, because Montague County would be a shipwreck right now if we wouldn't have received any federal help plus surge. But be sure, don't think that we don't appreciate everything y'all done for us. It's just we're trying to move along and operate with our own money, because we can't borrow money to speed this up.
Yeah, we understand that completely.
Thank you for everything though that you've done. We'll try to I think we can get everything you need there to keep this project moving.
Yeah, we want the same things. We still want to get y'all more money. Everything that y'all deserve, we want to make sure that it gets back into your bank accounts and you're made whole and you're not kind of in that negative bubble, I guess. So we want to continue helping y'all through the end of this and making sure that you're reimbursed fully.
Thank you very much.
Kelsey, let me get a clarification from you, if I may. For the small projects, for money that was spent on small projects after November 29th of 2019, what do you need from us to get extensions granted to make sure those are completed, closed out, whatever the terminology is, correctly?
So we don't require cost documentation to be submitted to the state for small projects. I think that would really be something that y'all would need to look at to make sure that it wasn't actually completed before November 2019. And if it wasn't, it would be the same idea, kind of that cost or just a construction timeline kind of pictures or something that back it up as to why it wasn't done. But, you know, the likelihood that, you know, on these small projects, we're talking about, you know, little minor repairs in random little sections. And you might have already done that, you might not have, and on ones that you know, like, oh, we for sure didn't do that yet, then we'll want to see the similar documentation to prove that. But we don't need any cost documentation for small projects. But Montague County does have a requirement to keep that cost documentation on file My advice to y'all it's 5 years after the project completion date, but I would just say that the 5 years kind of picks up when the entire disaster is closed. The longer you can keep it to back up your files, probably the better.
So we've got all of the documentation, all of the cost documentation, but what do I need to get to you or to Melinda or Brian or Jody, whoever I need to get it to make sure there's no issue with those being closed out?
It's the same thing as the other ones that Melinda kind of went over. So if you know for a fact that this project was not completed by November 29th, 2019, pictures, something that can back up why it wasn't completed and that it wasn't actually completed.
Okay.
The same sense. Yeah.
You need all of this information for large projects and small projects, not just the unfinished large projects.
Correct. Yeah. If you need a time extension for a small project, you do need that document. The only difference is that with small projects, we don't need actual cost documentation. We just need, the explanations, the same thing with the large. So that's the only difference on those for time extension specifically.
It's not completed by November of 19.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Any small projects still?
Okay, so moving forward.
Sorry, Jody.
And,
That's okay.
oh, I'm sorry, Jody, did you have something to say?
No, I was just wondering, he said, he mentioned small projects. I didn't realize that there were small projects that were still out there that required work. So I guess that's something that you and Kelsey, Charlie will try to figure out where you're at with those small projects. Because I thought we were just talking about large projects. I thought that was all.
No, yeah. And Jody, I think that again, it ties back to try to hammering out whether or not these projects, the small projects, were also completed, and maybe just the commissioner or the road hands at the time just didn't realize that they did complete the project scope of work as written. So it's just going to be kind of a figuring that part out. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so
Sorry,
moving
Corinne.
forward, and that's all right. And please, anyone correct me if you want to add something or if you feel that my comments are incorrect. So moving forward, we need justification for the projects not completed, that whether that's pictures, affidavits, whatever form of paperwork that you can show for justification of these projects. Show the work for regular maintenance associated with these projects, because they may have been actual part of the work for the projects and not just general maintenance. And you can seek reimbursement on that. So you'll need the paperwork dating back to that time that that maintenance was done. Create a detailed construction timeline. And Melinda has suggested no more than 6 months, 4 to 6 months. And if there are extenuating circumstances, create an extremely detailed justification as to why you'll need an extension for that construction timeline beyond that 4 to 6 months. Is there anything else that anyone can see that that I need to add to that?
Just a quick clarification. This is per project too.
Yes, per project.
And that's 4 to 6 months from now.
Yes. 4 to 6 months from now. Anyone else have anything to add?
So I'm calling
Yes,
based
sir.
on that, based on the 4 to 6 months, are you expecting all the projects to be completed within 4 to 6 months? Or that's what the timeline, the time extension will go through, and then we'll review this process again? But
You'll need, in order for FEMA to move forward with a time extension, one of the things they're gonna need is a very, very detailed construction timeline that shows 4 to 6 months that you will have these projects completed. If they are not completed, then there needs to be or you don't feel that they can be completed within the 4 to 6 months. Melinda, correct me if I'm wrong, then there needs to be a very, very detailed justification as to why you feel that those projects cannot be completed within that 4 to 6 month
we're
timeline.
going beyond 4 to
Yes,
6 months. Okay,
Yes, sir.
okay.
This is Melinda. Just to kind of add to that, to make it simple, and I don't know, I think these days I get it, but to make it a little more clear, I would look at what you have. So I'm looking at these projects. I look at them quite often. There are 44 projects that remain open for Montague County. That's what I'm showing, 44. Now, there are several small projects, yes. Those 44 open projects, what you need to do is go down through that list, because they each have their own unique road name on them and what precinct they belong to. Are any of those projects 100% complete? If they are, make sure the POP extension, Colleen, is in place to cover their last invoice for that project, and let's get those off the table first. Those are the easy ones. Do you have any of those 44 projects that are finished?
Yes, ma'am.
Look at that in totality. Don't look at it, you know, it happened in 2015. We got some more rain in 2016. We got some more rain in 2017, and we continue to grade. At some point in time, these are finished. Okay?
All but 19 of those are complete. Yes.
All but 19 are complete. So
Prior to November.
Colleen, look at all the other ones but the 19 first. Kelsey, Joey, Jody, piece those out and look at those ones that are complete. Make sure the time extension's in place. And if they are, then this is a TDM Montague County discussion. I'm only involved with the 19 that are not complete.
Hey, Melinda. So sorry. Some of those 19 that are complete also need a time extension because the completion date is after is after. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
So I know that they may still need a time extension, but you know, all I need for a time extension for the ones that are 100% complete is an invoicing date. What did that invoice look like? What was that last piece of paper that said to the county, this road's done? What was the trigger that said, I'm done with the work on this road? That's the work completion date. So don't just give me a round number 3 months from November 29th. If it's actually complete, right now you have an end date, you have a completion date. Get me that completion date of those that are completed. The ones that are continuing and they are not 100% complete, those are the ones that somebody's probably going to need to go back out and take photos to provide with your justification that shows what condition those roads are currently in compared to what they were in 2015 to show that they still need work. Because what I'm going to assume, what the logical assumption is if you're telling me that they're not done and they've not been started, that also tells me if I'm a person that lives on one of those roads and nobody's done anything to my road for 5 years, I'm probably not a very happy person out there in the county land. Nobody's run a road grader down my road, if nobody's thrown rock down, if nobody's done anything on my road and I live out there on one of these roads that's never been started. For those that have been started, look at that invoicing to see where we need to carry these through. But those photos, that month by month justification, I would look at a monthly, what can you accomplish in a 30-day period? What can you accomplish in a 3-month period? That's logical based on your staff available and the work hours that what can you actually do within those timeframes in your precinct? Those are just some observations to kind of help tweak and what that would look like coming in so that we can look at that and review the request.
So the 19 projects that are remaining, we will work with y'all to gather that information, items that have been discussed that you need to move forward with the time extension. We'll hit those hard and heavy and do what we can to support you in that effort. The remaining 23, that don't need time extensions but are not completed. As Melinda said, that's a Montague County 10 discussion, but we're gonna worry about the 19 first to get you that time extension. The other is paperwork. We just need the paperwork to show that those others have been completed. Once you do that, we can get you reimbursement. So in the background, start working on that so that you can get the money forward. But we really need to work on these 19 so that you're able to get that extension, because we can't grant any funding from this point until that extension is granted.
Because we only have 19 total that ain't complete.
Correct.
Everything else is.
Everything else is complete.
So once you turn in the paperwork for reimbursement for those other 23, and they were completed before that November hot date, then we can get you reimbursement for those. You just have to turn in the paperwork.
With this already in.
The ones that are closed are the ones that are completed. Are the other 23 are all small projects.
Okay, and that's what you were talking about, Kelsey, with the 300 and something thousand that's almost, or I believe Joey was.
That
It's
money
almost
was up front, so we just need to get that closed off of the list.
Right.
I didn't know if I needed to, pardon me, I didn't know if I needed to furnish the same type of documentation for them as I did for the 19. And
No.
the answer is no. I need
For
to-
the small projects, I would for the time extension on those small projects that have since been completed, I would probably provide like something that shows when that project was completed, like Melinda said, and we can attach that into it for the small projects for that final extension date for the completion. But the full cost documentation, we don't need the full cost documentation.
Okay.
So of those 23 remaining, are any of those large projects? They're all small projects?
There's one large project that was completed that is ready for submission for reimbursement.
Okay, so you can work
So
on
I'll
getting
work on
that
first.
submitted, and then we'll get you the reimbursement for that.
And out of the 19 that we like, there's a certain percentage done even on others.
Most of them, yes.
Right.
And even the ones that we don't show anything having been done on, there will have been something done that I just need to go back and find. The regular grading, the
Right, we've
filling
got
in potholes, putting gravel in the washout so you can get across it. There'll be things like that, yes.
Clarification, so any work done after the November, the pop date,
November
any invoices after that need to jump through the hoops and have the justification for the extension. Is the extension going to be done by case project, PW, small and large, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, another thing remaining small. That I've got, I mean, they're hardly nothing.
$11,000 outstanding on it.
Right. So, but I've got work from 2016 up where I've had to go back and patch it or whatever.
Bring it to me tomorrow.
Close the business.
And we'll close it out.
Well, if the work was done prior to the pop date, then we have an extension.
If it was
If the
done,
invoice or the work was done after the pop date, we have to justify the work and the invoices and get an extension on those, whether it's small or large.
Yes, ma'am.
Up to that date. That's on projects that haven't been paid though yet.
No, that's on the small and
Well, I
large.
understand you have to show that they have been completed after the November 19th date. But again, some of those between that 19 and the 44 have already, you have documentation that they're completed. But I, for instance, have one large project that I have that was done after November 19th between there and now that I've already been reimbursed for. So, and it's after the November of the 19th.
They still want justification.
Yes.
So they can show.
That won't be any problem. I've got it all. And Jordan's got it all.
it's all, it's like Colleen said, that's just paperwork.
Yeah.
somebody said, that's just paperwork.
Yes.
And I
But
have
you
that
still have to
paperwork, so
apply
that-
for that extension
But
for
yes.
that project.
Yes, that was my clarification. I do have to apply for the extension, but I only have to do it with paperwork. I don't have to have pictures and maintenance
On the
and
smalls.
construction timeline on anything that was completed between November and now. Was my question, and I think that was the clarification I got.
Yeah, on the smalls.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I'll echo what Commissioner Langford said. I think we are very appreciative of all the help we have received. I don't think there's anything that y'all are asking for that we can't provide,
Perfect.
and we will start making it happen.
We will go to work on it. I will get it to you as quickly as I can.
And again, we're here to help you. We want to give you the tools to be able to move forward, get everything repaired, and get the money that you're due. So I hope that I hope by us all being here that that's going to give you a path forward, and we can move on and get these projects closed.
That's our goal as well.
I mean, it helps,
Absolutely it is.
these face-to-face meetings really help a lot. You know, it's hard to understand everything.
Yes, sir. I understand.
You know, since that 2015 flood, we've had 2 rains like that since then, it took it out 10. So
I
that
understand.
was a lot to go back, fix, you know.
Yeah, I understand, and that's part of the justification. Yeah, I understand.
I've been keeping rain records the last 2 years. And then we'll,
Colleen,
Yes, ma'am.
Colleen, this is Melinda. Brian and I need to jump off to another 11:30 call, and I appreciate having the invite to kind of help work through this. I hope that we didn't make or muddy the waters for anybody. If we did, we are certainly would be available at any time for any other further discussions. And I know, Colleen, that you will reach out to us if you need some assistance. We are here to help, and we will provide whatever we can do for both the county and TDM to get these projects in and get them, moving forward. So thank you again, Your Honor and Commissioners, for allowing FEMA the opportunity to be present at your commissioner meeting. And I wish you all a very good day, and I look forward to working with TDM on your reviews. Thank you, and have a great one.
Thank you, Melinda. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you all. Y'all take care now.
I have some actions to take.
You'll be busy.
The court has the action.
You'll be a little busy.
No action.
All right. Anything further?
No, sir, not on my end.
Well, again, we appreciate your help.
Yes, sir. Our pleasure.
You bet. Thank you.
So I guess for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second, motion by Commissioner Langford, second by Commissioner Darden, and we will be all voted for, and we will be adjourned.
All right. Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Thank
everyone
you.
on the phone.
Thank you. Thanks for
Thank
sharing.
you.
Jody.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.